count on me in the middle of a storm. Well, that's okay, I'll be alright, just watch me soar. I'm a self-made man, I don't need your hand. You're walking me around like a child. You think you got friends till things get tough and they're all dry black flies. Well, I've been doing just fine. Gotta live my life, gotta live my life alright. I've been doing just great. I don't think about you, I don't think about you at all. Cause you could take a drama, stick it where the sun don't shine. I've been doing just fine. Living my life, gotta live my life alright. I wonder how you even fall asleep at night. Way up in your ivory tower, judging from on high. How can you keep a straight face, being so fake, lying through your teeth when the other shoe drops, when it comes back around? Don't come crying back to me, cause I've been doing just fine. Gotta live my life, gotta live my life alright. I've been doing just great. I don't think about you, I don't think about you at all. Cause you can take a drama, stick it where the sun don't shine. I've been doing just fine. Living my life, gotta live my life alright. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. I'm A-okay, sitting in the shade. Turns out the grass was greener and so was the pay. Yeah, I'm A-okay, sitting in the shade. It turns out the grass was greener, so was the pay. Cause I've been doing just fine. Gotta live my life, gotta live my life alright. I've been doing just great. I don't think about you, I don't think about you at all. Cause you can take a drama, stick it where the sun don't shine. I've been doing just fine. Gotta
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another special edition of COSA-TV. I'm Greg Blanchard, joined by my colleague and good friend, Mark McKelvey, and really happy to be welcoming in Jim Lawson once again this evening, the CEO of the Woodbine Entertainment Group. Guys, great to have you with us tonight. And Jim, we thought it was a good time to maybe catch up with you again. It was around this time last year when we were talking the first lockdown. Here we are, hoping we're getting ready to come out of the second stay-at-home phase here in Ontario. So let's dive right into that. I mean, indications that we're going to hear something perhaps as early as tomorrow, maybe early next week. Can you give us anything more than what we've seen in the media?
Sure, Greg. I'm not sure I can give a whole lot more insight, but I can certainly relate to how Woodbine Entertainment is looking at it. And thanks for having me on, Greg, and Mark. Great to see you too. And in terms of where we're at, relative to any indication, we're much like the news that you're getting out of the government and out of the health authorities. We've certainly had inbounds, and I've even been steady at it this afternoon, trying to get a sense. I get a couple of different reports because as you check in with different sources, you get back not always consistent answers. So we're hoping that we hear tomorrow, and there's seemingly no question that this is going to fall to the health authorities to define which zone the regions fall into. As things currently stand, it looks like Halton would be eligible to return to the red zone. If we hear tomorrow, we could start planning. If that is delayed until early next week, and it will depend, of course, whether we do fall into that red zone, and we'll plan accordingly and get racing going as quickly as we can. So let's hope it's tomorrow. I think it'll make it smoother for everyone, but we just don't know what position the health authorities are going to take. But the numbers, as I said, following the letter of how they've defined red zone, Halton looks to be in decent shape as of today.
A very positive sign earlier today was the fact that Woodbine Mohawk Park reopened for training. Training available today, Friday, and Saturday, going to continue next week as well. Safe to say that was a good indication, though, to our horse people out there that Woodbine will be ready to go and give them the green light.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, we did it for a couple of reasons. The way this came about, if you'll recall, last May, June, we got it dropped on us, I think on May 27th without any notice whatsoever. Actually, we were quite shocked at the time, Mark, to be included in phase one of the reopening of the province. We worked very hard to achieve that status, but I heard probably the morning of, if May 27th was the day the announcement was made, I heard the morning of, guess what? You guys are going to be allowed to start racing. And it was like, whoa, I wish someone had given us a little more of a heads up. So this time, for that reason, we didn't want to be caught off guard. We wanted to give the horses a chance to get out on the track and do some speed work. And we're probably looking at the earliest a week away from starting. I know it's not ideal, but once we got the indication that the province was looking at returning to their zones and how they were managing this, we immediately moved. In fact, the same afternoon, we got that indication around noon, and we had a meeting mid-afternoon, and we announced by 5:30 or 6 o'clock that we would be opening for training. So we did that to be ready. We did that to give the horse people a chance to get ready, and hopefully it will have an impact that we've taken the right steps. And it's hard. I was talking to you guys pre-show, Mark and Greg. There are a whole lot of considerations in terms of employees and bringing them back and taking them off again. So there are a lot of things. People have been patient and understanding, and there's a lot of considerations that go into a decision like this. The welfare of the horses being a primary one, and we do want to get them out there. As we stand tonight, though, look at us. We're still not sure exactly whether there'll be an announcement tomorrow or even next Monday or Tuesday. All I can say is we're going to do our very best to get going as quickly as possible once there is an announcement that Halton's going to fall into the red zone.
Well, yes, we've all been operating under that uncertainty really for the last year, and we've kind of learned to navigate through that and do the best with the cards that are dealt us. So we know horse people are chomping at the bit to get going, and racetracks are the same. You talked about opening for training here at Western Fair. They've already drawn a program for next week, hoping that announcement will come forward. And Rideau Carleton and Ottawa, I know, has done the same. But being that we're in different parts of the province, we're not exactly sure what restrictions will look like depending what zone you are in. So based on as much as you know right now, Jim, if you get the announcement you're hoping for, what's racing going to look like, do you think, for the first little while at Mohawk?
Well, I think there are a number of horses ready. If we get the announcement that we're hoping for, we would hope to get condition sheets out. And I say if we get an announcement tomorrow, we would hope to get condition sheets out over the weekend and draw as early as Monday for Thursday. So it's important to get those condition sheets. I can say they've been prepared. But we are in a little bit of a unique situation, Greg. Halton borders on Peel, and hard to know exactly how the health authorities are going to look at Halton relative to being on the edge of that red zone and certainly on the edge of what is going to be a gray zone in one of the hardest hit areas being Peel. And so we want to do the right thing for everyone, and we will move quickly. If we have to squeeze that time down between the condition sheets and the draw, we will. If we have to draw within 48 hours of racing, we'll do that. We're going to do everything we can to get racing back as quickly as possible. Let's hope it's tomorrow, and we can proceed. If it's not tomorrow and it's Monday or Tuesday, let's keep our fingers crossed that this goes our way. But particularly in Halton, with numbers jumping around and given our proximity to Peel and to Toronto, we're a little more uncertain, quite frankly, than Rideau in London in terms of what this can look like. I think hearkening back to what happened earlier in terms of regions being in different zones, there was certainly a lot of concern in Halton and from the health authorities that people were migrating from Toronto and Peel into Halton to go shopping or to go to restaurants, and opening in one zone, an adjacent zone, certainly raises concerns. So we don't know exactly what the mindset is of the health authorities, but let's hope it goes our way, and certainly much like the horse people out there, we're as anxious as anyone to get going, and we're ready to go. The track is in great shape. I know the horse people are training. They've been pushing our race office to get going, so I think we'll get off to a good start, and hopefully a Thursday or Friday start. But we'll know more tomorrow or Monday as to what that possibility is.
A lot of good feedback today from the horse people that were able to be on site and train, and of course, the strict COVID-19 prevention protocols are all in place. Everybody having to fill out their online questionnaires before they arrive. But just going back to your point about the region of Halton, Jim, and its proximity to those hot zones, and the fact that it felt like before we went into this stay-at-home order, every single day, Halton seemed to be that region that was always talked about that could be on the fringe of going into a lockdown. It never did get to that point. But tell us a little bit, and for those at home that maybe don't understand, how does it work at Woodbine Entertainment, those that are monitoring the situation and those that have to be up to date on COVID-19 and your group internally, and how you guys try to stay on the ball each and every day to track the latest news?
Well, yeah. we have a COVID committee, and as you well know, Mark, a communications department that is monitoring things, by the hour or less. And I might admit that I'm so anxious about it that I'm monitoring about every 20 minutes and trying to stay on top of it through social media and other channels, and corresponding with the OLG and others who might have a better view into what the government's thinking. But we have a COVID committee that has carefully managed through this before. We're ready to go again. Great to hear about the track today. We have been, as you know, we've been keeping the track in great shape through this entire period. So not surprising to hear that it was in good shape today. That is something that we didn't stop on. So it's a positive that it was as well received today as it was. But we are, and we work with lobbyists. The lobbyists are doing everything we can. I'm doing everything I can directly along with our team, speaking to health authorities and other authorities, and we're on top of it. I'd like to say that we know exactly the way this is going to fall. Indications are that Halton should fall into the red zone, and indications are there could be an announcement tomorrow. But I'm certainly not going to say that's unequivocally correct, and we'll find out. But we've had a dedicated COVID committee, and I think it's probably a worthwhile time, and everyone knows this, and I don't mean to sound paternalistic when I say this, Mark, but our success is only as great as the cooperation of the horse people. And the horse people wearing masks, following the protocols, not coming if they're feeling, not coming to the track if they're not feeling well. All of those things are going to be so important going forward. I'm not a health expert, but we all hear about the new strains of the virus and the greater contagious nature of them than the first strain. And our success in keeping this going for everyone is contingent upon everyone doing their part again. And my hat's off to all the horse people who did a great job from June the 5th till the third week in December in paying attention and doing what they needed to do, being patient, being understanding, and being so careful. It would really. We'd be back to where we started if we had an outbreak at Mohawk, a serious outbreak. We'd be shut down by the health authorities. We have to report it once we have over 2 transmissions to the health authorities. And so we can't afford to do that. And people know that. And I just continue to encourage people that, listen, you did a great job before. We're all tired of this thing. But we can't let our guard down. We've got to keep going with what we were doing before. And if we do that, we should be able to keep racing. But if we don't do that, boy, we'll take a big step backwards, and no one wants that. So let's keep it going. If we're fortunate enough to start racing, we have, as hard as it is and as tired of all of this as we all are, we have to keep those transmissions off our property, and in order to keep going. So we're right back to where we were, and everyone, hats off. You did a great job, and let's keep it going this time too.
Yeah, I think very well said. Really a wonderful job this past year by our horse community, and that they'll do what it takes when we get back to it. Jim Lawson joining us tonight, the CEO of the Woodbine Entertainment Group, and never shy to answer questions. So we've asked our viewers to submit a few, and we'll try and get to some of them throughout the course of the show. One that we've had already, Jim was wondering about the possibility of fans returning. So if you do get the anticipated announcement and you're able to start back in the red zone, what's your interpretation about having fans on site, and whether that will be allowed, and how many potentially?
Yeah, listen, it's well documented, and I apologize because I wish I could recite exactly what those red zone restrictions are, but I think there's gatherings of 10 people allowed, and in restaurant type settings, and there may be a maximum of 50. So we're gonna be very careful, even to put racing on. We're going to be very careful to deal with essential personnel. Listen, we'd love to get our spectators back. We'd love to get some of our food and beverage people back. I mean, this is what we're all about: is exposing racing, employing people, and we want to do it. But Greg, it's pretty well defined, and I don't have the exact numbers for us. If the numbers improve and we get into the next zone, the orange zone, it gives us more opportunities. I think it is 50 people inside in the orange zone. That may give a number of businesses an opportunity, even the casino businesses, to make it worthwhile. So it's not something that we can control. It's quite strictly legislated by these the number of restrictions that are in that adhere to each zone restriction. So we want people back, but it's beyond our control.
Jim, we've been talking a lot about what could be coming in the next week or two, but let's talk a little bit about what's happened during the stay-at-home order. And there was a time, of course, where you did reach out to the racing community and ask for support from our horse people to contact their local politicians and to make their voice heard. For some that would have reached out and maybe didn't get a reply, and those that really stepped up, you're going to be a lot closer to the situation than they might be. Do you feel that we pushed the needle? Do you feel that the racing community was heard? I know we weren't able to get things changed, but do you think our voice was heard by our politicians and those close to government?
Yeah, I absolutely do. I think that in my discussions, which I've had numerous discussions, I think in some quarters, Woodbine, it's been questioned whether Woodbine sat on its butt and didn't do enough. Well, I'd like to face those people directly and tell them what our life's been like the last few months, because we've done anything but sit quietly. And we worked very hard, but I can tell you, so did a lot of the horse people, and it was appreciated. It definitely made an impact. My discussions with elected officials and bureaucrats have confirmed that, yes, don't worry, Jim, we hear you. You've motivated your constituency of horse people. And I think it's, sure, it didn't change things immediately in terms of the definitions in those zones, but I think it was overdue for certain, I'll say, departments in government to recognize racing in a way that they hadn't before. We work very closely, and I'll say quite favorably and successfully with the OLG and the Ministry of Finance. But that's been most of our work involves the OLG and finance, and we have very good and trusting relationships with them and with the Alcohol and Gaming Commission. Having said that, a lot of what went on relative to the language was with other ministries in the government, and I think that's what was frustrating for us initially, especially. And you heard and also seen me voice my concerns about this, that when that language came out on December 26th and contemplated professional sports leagues in this province where we have 15 racetracks, and there was no nod that horse racing is a professional sport, or that we would have consideration. It was, and it may still be, fighting somewhat of an uphill battle in terms of dealing with that language that's in there. And I was very frustrated for us and for all the horse people in this province, who are highly skilled professional people all the way through, from the drivers to the trainers to the grooms to all the people that look after these horses. I did not like it, and spoke out about it. I've spoken to our MPPs about it, and that was really frustrating to see. People stepped up. We have been noticed. We're as an industry, an employee of 20,000 people plus, with great economic spin-off in this province in the billions. the taxes these people pay, the contribution of the racetracks, and what we do for this economy. And I thought we actually dwarf some of the teams and some of the considerations. Woodbine Entertainment dwarfs them in terms of number of employees, economic impact, the professional athletes, the drivers, the jockeys, the trainers, the veterinarians and caretakers of these horses. Pretty frustrated to see that. I certainly was, and I wasn't quiet about it. And I'm glad the industry rallied, and I want to thank everyone, because people really did step up, and we worked very hard, and we've done a good job. Racing is definitely. I thought it was always in the map, but that was pretty frustrating to be dealt that blow in that language. Whether I won't say where. How that got in there with acknowledgement of certain sports leagues and certain sports, but not us. But I think that will be rectified in the future, and should be.
And I was going to follow up with that. When that language was in there initially, and the lockdown came into place, it's always an uphill battle to get government to go back on something that once it's already been started and put into place. So. Going forward, do you feel confident that the voice was heard, and that if, God forbid, this were to happen a third time somewhere down the road, that there might be a different interpretation and different language in there that might allow us to continue under those circumstances?
Listen, I hope so. I'm not so sure that we'll be able to change that lockdown language that I just referred to, but we were dealt with separately as an industry. As you know, it contemplated training but without racing, bracket, no spectators. I would think if we get the opportunity to open here, and we can continue with our stellar record, I think we've got a strong case that, hey, whether it was an oversight or a mistake, I'd like to think it was an oversight. We've made our case. When you're considering, and there's a specific section in the gray zone language, if Halton, for example, were to go back into the gray zone, I think that language is easily amended to allow racing without spectators. We've made the point over and over, both on the thoroughbred side and on the standardbred side, that the fact that we can continue to train is really not any riskier for either breed than what it is to run racing without spectators. It really entails the same people coming to the track, the same horses going out on the track to train. There are judges, AGCO and CPMA judges that have to come to the track, but there's no reason really that we shouldn't be allowed to race without spectators if we're allowed to train. And hopefully, if it was an oversight, we'll be able to use our record, which for 7 months was incredible and safe. And if we continue, we're going to continue to see what we can do to get that gray zone horse racing language changed. We're one of the few tracks, when you look south of the border, and this is hurting us, and you guys know better than I do because you're closer to it, a number of trainers who are racing now in the United States. And, the hot zones in the United States, and this doesn't make it right, but it does show the safety record. I mean, Gulfstream, which is in a real hot zone in Miami, Hollandale area, they've never stopped racing. Los Angeles County in Santa Anita, they've been racing, and so on. And it really shows that if racing is allowed to proceed as an outdoor sport and procedures and protocols in place, that we can do this. And it's not just us. This has occurred throughout the United States. and Los Angeles County and Miami would have shut down those 2 tracks respectively in a hurry if there'd been an outbreak. But they've been operating consistently, and we can do the same, and we deserve the same consideration between allowing training to proceed and allowing racing to proceed. And we'll work on that. This doesn't have to be acrimonious between ourselves and government. We're respectful of people's safety. We've done a very good job. We've got health people on our board. We've got health people that we're working with on our COVID committee. It does not need to be tension. It needs to be, let's sit down and have a reasonable conversation. And you've heard that from us, I hope, that Woodbine, as a spokes group for this industry, have been very respectful. I believe we have been of the very difficult decisions and complex decisions that government has had to make, and we understand that. And all that we want is a seat at the table and to work this out and show them what we can do and what we have done and what we can put in place. And listen, they've got a tough job. We know that. Safety comes first. And this is a delicate time for this sort of discussion, but there's a whole community out there whose livelihoods rely on this sport proceeding, and they've done it safely. And I think our history shows, and the evidence in the United States done, that this can be a safe endeavor. And I'm hoping we can have that discussion about that. Gray zone language should Halton and other regions fall back into the gray zone with what people would refer to as a third wave.
You touched on the United States there a moment ago, Jim, and that leads us into a viewer question that comes in from Mike Pennington, and he wants to know how confident you are that we're going to have enough horses ready to race when we do get the green light, as several trainers did opt to either send horses or maybe even relocate to the United States when we went into this shutdown. So how do you feel, and what's your level you're getting on our horse population as we get set to head back into racing, fingers crossed, hopefully soon?
Yeah, listen, it's an excellent question by Mike, and certainly has been a concern and expressed as a concern in our discussions, certainly with the OLG. And we've raised this on a number of occasions, including right from the outset, that this was a fear of ours. Not to deflect the question that Mike Pennington's asked, but Mark, I think the McKelveys and Mr. McClinchy and other have a better grasp. For my part, I've been corresponding with Jessica Buckley and Mr. McClinchy the last couple of days, and Bill hasn't expressed a concern that we won't be able to fill. I mean, we would adjust accordingly, whether that would mean one less race or 2 less races and 8 horse fields instead of 10 horse fields. Sure, we may have some of that, but I'm not getting any indication from. And the first weekend would probably be a couple of days, whether it's the Friday and Saturday, possibly the Thursday, as we've said, if we learn tomorrow. But I'm not getting any indication that we won't be able to host a card, and we want to do it. We want to do it for the people who are around and ready to go. These people, for the most part, as you know better than I do, Mark, they've kept their horses in training and in shape, and we've had cooperation from the AGCO in terms of qualifiers and the time period between starts, and so we feel like we're ready to go. And I can't answer Mark's question exactly, and I'm not even sure if Bill McClinchy could, but I think we're confident that we can put together 2 or 3 race cards for as early as next weekend.
Well, maybe a good indicator, Jim and Mark, the fact that a draw was already conducted earlier today for here in London, and 88 horses entered, I believe, and 11 races drawn. So pretty good numbers considering the amount of time that we've been out of action, and that some of these horses and stables, as you mentioned, have relocated south of the border. So I think that's a good sign. And we'll ask you, Mark. Jim touched on it, and why not chime in here if you've been hearing, some of the stables that have gone south of the border, if you're getting any indications that some of them are looking to return, or if they're going to stay put for a while, or what you're hearing.
Yeah, that was the indication that I did get in the last couple of days from a few people that I've talked to, is that announcement earlier in the week and a Woodbine Mohawk Park reopening for training, that certainly points towards hopefully racing resuming soon. And I think some of them are opting to start that process of getting back up here. Obviously, they'll have a certain quarantine and things like that they'll have to do, but I think they maybe hopefully see a bit of a writing on the wall. So I'm very confident as well, just as Jim mentioned. I haven't heard from too many people that feel we will be short. And of course, we're 4 days a week as well. Right now, it's not the 5 days a week we were when we came right out last time in the June. And I think we'll be all right. So looking forward to it. And to your point, a good indication with the numbers we saw today from Western Fair.
Yeah.
And
Greg,
go ahead, Jim.
Go ahead. No, I would just reiterate what Mark just said. The indications from some of the people I've spoken to now, in fairness, not in the last few days, but they almost felt bad, and I heard from a number of them directly and said, "Listen, we're heading south, but we're only a van trip away, and I don't think the 14-day quarantine is going to scare them away. The way this is unfolding in this province, I think we're going to be left with a 14-day quarantine for a lengthy time here. So whether it's now or whether it's June, I think we're still going to be looking at a 14-day quarantine. So realistically, as they look and want to come home or want to race at Mohawk, I think they will. And I think some of them they indicated to me early on that's what they were doing, but they would not hesitate to turn around and come back if we could get racing going. I think they will. And I think the 14 days is a non-issue, only in the sense that they are going to want to come back, and we have a great card of racing this summer, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about that, but they're probably going to have to quarantine for 14 days in June or July too. So I'm hoping they'll come back and we'll be in good shape.
All right. Again, we're joined by Jim Lawson, CEO of the Woodbine Entertainment Group. Another question earlier was asking about having qualifiers before racing returns. And again, based on the fact that a couple of tracks have already drawn cards, I know there won't be qualifying there. They're planning as soon as they get the green light to get going. And I assume that'll be the case at Mohawk. So hopefully that answered that question that came in, and keep them coming, and we'll try and get to a few more here tonight. As mentioned, Jim will be talking about the upcoming stake schedule and a few other topics of interest. We'll take a commercial break and be back with Jim Lawson with more on COSA-TV.
Harness Racing Update is the sport's most comprehensive and timely news source. HRU covers the sport from all angles with news, features, photography, opinion, and analysis of racing. Also, HRU covers breeding and sales, as well as industry stories you need to know. It's all delivered by a deep, diverse, and talented team of writers and photographers. And the best news is that it's free to subscribe. Subscribe to HRU today for free at harnessracingupdate.com. and see what everyone is talking about.
Winback Farm of Ontario is home to 7 outstanding pacers, including Better Than Cheddar, a proven sire of Ontario Sire Stakes Gold winners. 3 rich performers stand their second season in 2021, including O'Brien Award winner Jimmy Freight, Horse of the Year McWicked, and O'Brien Award winner Stag Party. Also standing, Millionaires Aren't Speak, Better's Delight, and Shadow Play. For more information, it's winbackfarm.com.
Enjoy the thrill of the race anywhere, anytime with HPIBet.com. Join for free and use your smartphone, tablet, or PC to watch and wager when you can't be at the track. Stream live racing from over 450 tracks. Bet with ease from anywhere. It's safe and secure. Get rewards, race alerts, tips, and more. For a limited time, get $100 when you become a member. Plus, 1 month free live race streaming and your first bet is on us. Go to HPIBet.com to join for free today.
And welcome back to this special edition of COSA-TV. As we come out of the break, we're going to put a poll question up for you folks to weigh in on throughout the balance of the show tonight. We want to know, over this past year, with the changing landscape and obviously the inability for much of the year to come out to the racetrack or an OTB in person, have you had a chance to sign up for either the new Dark Horse app or HPIBet.com? Let us know, and we'd love to hear from you. And as we rejoin our special guest tonight, Jim Lawson, we'll ask you about that, Jim. I'm sure a major shift in how the wagering was conducted this past year, kind of out of necessity. So I guess in essence, if you want to simplify it, a really expensive way to conduct a sign-up campaign for these two online platforms. But perhaps an opportunity going forward. Now you've got, I assume, and maybe you can give us a little bit more information on this, but I assume a bunch of new people signing up for both of these past year.
Yeah, I'm certainly the HPI bet and that platform was a savior and a big success this year. Our marketing team did a tremendous job of moving people onto that platform. When you think of it, there's over 60 off-track wagering locations in this province, in addition to all the racetracks which serve as bricks and mortar locations for racing, and those were all eliminated for the most part. There were periods where some of the Champions Lounges were open, and of course the racetracks were open for periods, but we relied almost exclusively and without spectators, we relied almost exclusively on HPI in this province, and it built to the point, not only in conversion but most importantly in dollars, it built to the point where week over week, day over day, we were matching 2019 numbers just with online wagering. So it was a tremendous success. I think there are still, and what was evidenced, there are still a number of people who would rather bet cash, who would rather be in Champions Lounges, and of course, let's hope people continue to come to the racetrack and wager there. But it was a big boost to our industry, the success of HPI in that transition and keeping our wagering numbers. We built a big hole from not racing in April and May. It well documented that we were down over $100 million in wagering, and that was hard to make up, of course. But what we did do is we returned to numbers over the course of the summer and the fall, which were equivalent to over the same period in the year prior. We also did a launch of Dark Horse, which we're hoping is good for the entire industry in terms of simplifying it for that new customer, having a mobile app so people can watch the races on their phone and wager on their phones, and the use of artificial intelligence, I think, is going to appeal to a lot of people in terms of having fun with it. Don't have to spend a lot of money. You can rely on the artificial intelligence and play it like a game, and you can also obviously play it without wagering money. And so it's it's technology that we're improving. We got a lot of good customer feedback over the course of the fall, and I think you're constantly and consistently, from our standpoint, making improvements to the Dark Horse app, and it's good. It's part of the future of our business. I think Woodbine has showed itself as a technological leader. I think we've always been on the cutting edge of our HPI system and how we operate it, and now adding the Dark Horse app. I think we're recognized as a leader and a group that people come to in terms of technology and what we can do, and that may bode very well for us as the whole world of sports wagering and iGaming opens up in this country.
Well, that's a perfect segue into our next topic, and sports betting. It's been a hot button issue, certainly being discussed. It gains a lot of traction when it comes up, and I know Woodbine's been certainly at the forefront, pushing for not only a single game sports wagering to be legalized, but to be the ones that can really lead that charge here in our country. What's the latest update you can give us on that and that pursuit? And I know maybe we're not reading about it each and every day, but I do know sports betting is taking up a lot of your time these days.
Yeah, I would say it's a principal focus right now, and needs to be. There's certainly the threat that we've appreciated all along, that sports betting has the ability to come in and cannibalize pari-mutuel wagering, and we're focused on playing a role in protecting our industry. And I think one thing. Maybe it's COVID. Maybe people didn't appreciate the significance of it. But one of the most significant things that has happened in the past year for this industry across this country is there was a private members bill. I think people were well aware that there was a private members bill that was advocating sports wagering in this country. It was put forward by an MP from Saskatchewan, Kevin Waugh. Private members bill on sports wagering have come forward before, but this one in particular, I think it may well have related to just the pandemic and the difficult times people were having, and this was seen as a way to prop up the economy, generate revenue, support sports and amateur sports, and depending on how the money gets filtered, and just a revenue generator for the government. That I think Kevin Waugh's bill started to get momentum and was going to a second reading in the House. We were well aware of it. We'd had conversations with Kevin, and we rolled up our sleeves, quite frankly, and lobbied very hard to ensure that horse racing was looked after, and it would not have been looked after in the private members bill. The way it was drafted, it was going to affect a section of 207, I believe, of the criminal code, and it was going to leave the sports betting lottery scheme mandate wide open to include horse racing, which, as we all know, would contemplate fixed odds wagering on horse racing. And if these major multinational gaming companies were to come into this country and be able to offer fixed odds wagering on horse racing without paying for any of the content, any of the purses, any of the operating costs, yet being able to offer wagering on our product, there's a decent chance it would have put us out of business. In Australia, the experience has been fixed odds wagering has become more popular than pari-mutuel wagering. And so one of the most significant things that's occurred in recent months is the federal government stepped in and took over the private members bill in order to, in part, not the only reason, of course, but in part, make changes so that the horse racing industry could be protected. And the way the private members bill was going, it was going into the second reading, and then to a subcommittee of the government, which likely would have been a subcommittee of justice, and they would not have been able to to amend codes or sections of the code that were not contemplated in the private members bill. So this happened, I think, in the midst of all this shutdowns and government lockdowns but I can tell you that as we reflect back, when sports betting comes in, one of the most significant things that have occurred during this period has been the federal government stepping up and protecting horse racing in this sports betting legislation that's coming forward. There will be further consultation as to how this rolls out, including what it looks like, what the fixed odds possibilities look like, what the regulations look like. It looks like horse racing is going to continue to be regulated federally by the CPMA. But a lot of that was in doubt, of course, as we were looking at sports betting being passed down to the provincial lottery corps and who was going to regulate it, and it was going to be very messy. But right now, we have a clear path that racing is protected. And as these gaming companies look to come into this country, the good news is, particularly or certainly in Ontario, they're dealing with Woodbine Entertainment and Ontario Racing in terms of the horse wagering, and they do want to offer horse wagering as part of their sports book, as part of their digital online offering, so this is a great opportunity for the racing industry to go mainstream in the sports arena and the sports betting arena in this country. And so we're really excited about it. It's taking a lot of our time. We expect and plan on playing a major role in not only the federal but the provincial consultations as this gets rolled out. And I can say there will be a role for the horse racing industry. Woodbine Entertainment in Ontario, we have a excellent and trusted reputation. We have anti-money laundering policies that have worked and procedures that have worked. We have cash management in all of our bricks and mortar locations, and we have a robust technology group as people experience every day that is going to integrate very well with some of these gaming operators that are coming into this country. So we're hoping to forge a relationship. It's early on. We'll have to see how it works, but our bricks and mortar location, our regulatory status, and our policies and procedures put us in a place that racing, and I should say we should be. We are the only single event sports wagering company in this country. We have a digital footprint across Canada today. We do it well. We're the only ones that do it. We're heavily regulated. We have a good relationship with the lottery corps across the country, with the racetracks across the country, and we're primed to play a major role in sports betting. There'll be a number of companies coming in, but we're in good shape today and working very hard, Mark, as you suggest, in making sure that this is not only a revenue generator, but I think the other impact it will have is it will bring the sport of horse racing it's going to elevate all sports franchises in this country in terms of fan interest, and that's what you've seen, whether it's fantasy sports, online gaming, or however, it's going to bring interest to the sports. I think some of the sports teams are going to do well in terms of sponsorships and the ability to benefit from this. But as a key operator and the only legal one in this country on single event, private anyway, single event sports wager, we're working closely both with the regulators and the Lottery Corp in Ontario, and figuring out how this is going to best work for Woodbine Entertainment and the entire horse racing industry.
So just before we move on from this, Jim, this is really exciting. I mean, this has the potential to be that kind of game changer that the racing industry has been looking for over the last number of years. And it feels like the integration piece that was talked about as far back as 2013 when slots at racetracks ended at that time. So just maybe for horse people, I mean, horse people are a large part of the audience watching tonight. How could this, benefit them directly? Like, how do you see this ultimately flowing down to the industry here in Ontario, if things were to work out the way you want it?
Sure. I think there's so many spin-off impacts. I mean, first and foremost for us as an industry is, we don't like working with this label that we're somehow a government subsidized business. I don't think we need to be. In 2012, 2013, I sat at the table and at the time negotiated what I felt was a number of pillars as to how we would be integrated to make up for the income that was going to be lost through the cancellation of the slots at racetrack program. Really, none of that has ever happened, Greg. And this is a chance now to do a true integration, what the impact initially will be before too long. And there are not huge margins in this sports betting business, by the way. But I think it will be a revenue generator. I think there's an opportunity to come off any sort of government subsidy, and that's going to be very important in terms of we'd all like to be more of a self-regulatory environment. Sure, we need independent judges. We need the CPMA and AGCO and all that they bring to the table. But there are a number of things that I think we could be more self-sufficient and be more of a self-regulating industry, which I think was the intention going back in 2013 and 2014. So that will be a major impact. I think our ability to prosper at Woodbine, we're a key driver, as you know, of the economics of the industry in this province. I think anything that can continue to put us on sustainable grounds for the future and long-term arrangements in terms of our role in sports betting is going to give this industry the comfort and the stability that it's long been looking for. I think we're there now with the long-term funding agreement, but we're still quite dependent on a portion of our purses coming from that long-term funding agreement. And I can see a day in the next few years where that is not the case, and that will certainly give the people working and investing in this province a big boost of confidence that we're around for the long term in a strong way. I also think, as I alluded to earlier, that putting us in the center of this, and it may well not be the Woodbine Entertainment brand, but putting racing in the center of it, however that manifests itself, is going to attract new interests from a whole new generation of people who are doing fantasy or doing sports betting, who are going to their local sports books, and there's racing front and center. It's possible, depending on the integration with the Lottery Corp, we can get back to some of those integration ideas, both of sports books, possible access to retail outlets. It's hard to know how all of this is going to be regulated and who's going to be able to play in what space. But I can see that this opening up in what I'll call an untethered fashion as opposed to what's going on in New Jersey. And I think there's a good opportunity for us to participate in any number of ways that will expose racing, bring new fans in, bring new investment in. We're all concerned about where the new owner's coming from, how do we keep the breeders going, all of those things. We all understand them. We're sensitive to them at Woodbine Entertainment, and I think it will really help if we can have a stable industry that's self-sustaining. We're not today, but this is a way through integration, as you suggest, Greg, and even doing our own revenue generation through sports books, and in a number of ways that we hope to play in this. That it's going to be just a general uplifting for this entire industry in this province. There's enough people involved that deserve it, and we just have to keep it going by sustaining it through economically, which will attract new people to the sport, which we need. And it's interesting. I work a lot internationally and with other racing jurisdictions, and we've got a chance in Canada to really make that big step forward that we all feel we can do. If you've spent any time in Australia or Japan or the UK or France, even the United States, I mean, not all across the United States, but certainly in certain states, it's just ingrained in part of the culture. And I think we can make a step forward in that regard. And this sports betting arena is going to help bring us into that level of stature that we see in other major horse racing jurisdictions. In Canada, with the quality of racing, there's no better harness racing in the world, I believe, than what we see right at Mohawk. And we deserve to be mainstream and attract investment and attract new fans. And this is just going to help that and open up, as I say, revenue opportunities that we were counting on and had good discussions on in 2013. I'm hoping we get there. Now is the time, and now is the opportunity, and I hope the government supports us. The government has been great in a lot of ways. As I said, OLG and finance have been supportive, and now's the time to take advantage of the fact that Woodbine has a special opportunity here, given our assets, given our skill set, to play a meaningful role. And I hope that the government, for all they've invested in this industry and all the people's lives that are impacted, recognize that Woodbine is a Canadian company with a nonprofit mandate that will invest any funds back into supporting this industry, back into supporting the Canadian economy, back into supporting jobs, and being a good social partner that we are, and we are a good community citizen. And I think that's important. I would, as a taxpayer, I would much rather see the money come through Woodbine Entertainment than be drained offshore. And that has to be, in my view, a critical consideration. Is let's support Canada. We've got a company that I'm not just making noise that we've got the infrastructure and the skill set. I can tell you that we've got 3 or 4 major operators that would love to do a deal with Woodbine Entertainment. And I hope the government steps up and says, yeah, we get it. And you guys are gonna be a part of this space, and we deserve to be. Now's the time.
Let's hope so. Let's hope that does head in the right direction. And again, so many moving parts to that, but it could be a game changer, no doubt about it. Shifting focus back over to what's going to happen on the racetrack here in 2021. Let's take a look at the key dates on the stakes schedule for Woodbine Mohawk Park. And again, it's an industry-leading stakes program. So many marquee events, and right there you can see that the month of September is absolutely loaded once again. But right off the hop, Jim, we can go a few different directions, but let's start with the most, the most prestigious race in Canadian harness racing, that being the Pepsi North America Cup. Obviously, due to COVID last year, it was moved towards the end of August. Back in its usual spot this year. I think it's safe to say that when we're looking into the future and where our society is going to be, a lot more likely that we will be able to have fans back come the fall. But with the Pepsi North America back in its usual spot, kind of gets a little bit of normalcy back into the harness racing calendar.
Yeah, I can say as we looked at the schedule this year, that was a real key point, is whether the NA Cup should be in September or late August or June, and it was not an easy decision. We're hoping, like everyone, that there's hard to know how the government's going to handle this, of course, but we're hoping that there's a critical mass of people vaccinated by that time, and that the rules start to change with people with I don't know what the right term is, vaccination passports, that we can get people onto the track. Really, we look to our horse community on this. This was not made in a vacuum by us. We looked at not only competing dates for major pacing events over the entire calendar. Of course, June was the place that we were most comfortable with relative to the calendar, but also to our local horse people. I know Bill and Bill O'Donnell and others. This was a decision not made lightly, but all in all, the horse people wanted it. It seemed to fit best for the horses and their schedule. We are hoping to get some fans, and as it relates to the rest of the schedule we're looking at was with just a gangbuster September, subject to what happens on September the 25th, of course. We're still going to have a great night of racing that night with the Metro Pace and the other races that go with that card. But we should have fans back by September the way this is rolling out. And we're excited about it. I think to be able to offer this program again is really exciting for us. And we work closely with COSA and Bill and his board, and they've been totally supportive and working with us on marketing dollars and the like. And it's nice to have a partner like COSA. And I don't just say that because I'm on COSA-TV, guys. I legitimately say, listen, or genuinely say, COSA's been a great partner, and it's been a strong relationship, and we're thrilled to be able to offer this stake schedule and the purse levels that we're going to again this year, and I'm really excited about getting back at it, and let's hope it's a week or 8 days from now, but we're going to do our best to make sure that happens. And then, as I alluded to earlier, let's all do our part and try not to have any breaks in the schedule going forward for the rest of 21.
Yeah, that's really invigorating to look at that stake schedule up on screen and see that. September again, I mean, we remember that, Mark. We dubbed it September to Remember, and it was exactly that, and able to cover a lot of the big events here on COSA-TV, so looking forward to doing that again. And maybe I'll ask both of you, Mark, maybe on the sort of the communications promotion side, and Jim from the operational side, but bundling those races up in September wasn't really necessarily by choice last year, but the way it worked out, is that something you could brand and really sink your teeth into in the coming years?
Absolutely. I would say so. Yeah, I would say so. The September to Remember tagline was pretty good. And I think last year, and again, we're coming up on the stakes deadline, the deadline to nominate for all our major stakes at Woodbine Mohawk Park is coming up on Monday, February 15th. So a lot of people making those decisions right now. And I mean, just to hear Jim speak, you hear right there. I mean, this is an industry-leading stakes program. This is a program you want to be part of. There's a lot of value in it, not just the purse dollars, but a lot that comes with participating in events like this. And I think last year we really were able to kind of bundle that together, as you mentioned, Greg, especially with the Mohawk Million and the lead-in that you had with the William Wellwood Memorial. It did create that sort of carryover from week to week and really made it great storylines to follow. So, I mean, from a communication standpoint, there's nothing better than having plenty of storylines, and that's what this stakes program certainly allows. And I mean, last year was just incredible considering where we were at. We weren't even sure we were going to have those races at one point and where we would be. To that tagline that you mentioned, September to Remember, was very fitting.
Yeah, it's exciting. I guess from my perspective, Greg, the way I've looked at this, and the way I've looked at this since 2014 and 2015, when and I'll share this, when I went to the board, I was chair of the board turning into CEO of Woodbine, and when I went to the board, and we won't name names, but we had some pretty strong standardbred people on that board, which are familiar with all of you. And I floated the idea that wanted to think about moving racing to Mohawk 12 months a year. It was it took some convincing and a lot of criticism, not from our board. They were supportive, but I can tell you the vision from the time of floating this idea was that Mohawk would be a place to come and race year round. People could move, they could buy houses, they could raise families, they could have permanent employees. Our own employees would be happy not shifting back and forth between Mohawk and Woodbine. They wouldn't have to fight the traffic coming into Toronto. Our wagering at the time was 65 and 70%. It's now grown to online wagering. We did anticipate that it wouldn't be a major change to our wagering moving out of the Toronto market. But the reason I give you that background is this is a program now that is not just going to generate all this excitement in September. September is a key month, but people don't arrive in September. They arrive in July, June. They come for September. They love it. They decide maybe they're going to stay. We've built something very special in terms of a quality year-round track with A-level purses that I see this excitement in September as just part of building each year to a great program where people are going to come early, they're going to come often, they're going to probably stay, and we're going to be offering them a great racing year-round. And I think that our goal has been to be the number one harness racing destination in North America. And whether people want to argue that, I'm not here to argue that. I'm just saying that's our goal in our year-round approach, and the fact that we have people showing up for the Wellwood and showing up before that in the great 2-year-old program we offer both on the trotting side and the pacing side for both, culminating hopefully in the Million, but and the Metro Pace. This is starting to feel like we're getting to where we planned on being 3 or 4 years ago when we announced that we were doing this. We were putting millions of dollars into renovating the dining room, the Mohawk Harvest Kitchen, the new paddock, the facilities. We've invested a lot to get here, and this, to me, this sort of excitement puts us on the world-class stage. And if I can take what Mark said in terms of generating the September to remember, and just have this great festival and period of the year that people build up to, and then they stay thereafter. I think that's what we're all about, and I'm excited about it, and it's come to fruition. And we've got lots more opportunities on the horizon that we talked about earlier in this show. And I love where we're at as an organization. I love where racing's at. And we've got good partners in the OLG and the Ministry of Finance and the AGCO, and we can keep this going. And we are, at least in my view, we are going to be unequivocally the number one harness racing destination in North America.
Well, it's definitely, I think, a goal that is worth striving for. That's for sure, and it would be hard to argue that Woodbine Entertainment is not, if not there, very close to being there, and it's certainly within your sights. That's wonderful. Again, we've got Jim Lawson here tonight, CEO of the Woodbine Entertainment Group, and want to thank everybody for passing along their questions tonight. Jim brought up a good point that I think might be worth an impromptu poll question here. At the time, the move full-time to Mohawk, a little bit kind of a 50-50 reception to that. Some were very excited. Others weren't sure if, leaving the Toronto market at any portion of the year was a good idea. So give us your say tonight. Leave a comment for us wherever you're watching and let us know what you think. Has the move to Mohawk Park full-time been a good thing or a bad thing? I know what my opinion is, and I thought from day one, I love the idea. Mohawk, one of my favorite tracks in North America, and the world-class championship meet you have in the summer with the venue as the backdrop is really incredible. And as a year-round destination, I think just the logistical things you talked about, and Mark, maybe you could talk about this. You talked to a lot of horse people. Life has to be a little bit easier for them, right? Especially in the winter months, racing at Mohawk versus shipping into Woodbine, for most anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. For most, I think, and Jim knows it before a decision like this was made, everyone is aware as to where the majority of the horse people and those that were racing at our tracks were located. And for most, it did work out really well. And I think reducing that wear and tear of having to ship into Woodbine and to fight the traffic, as Jim mentioned, somebody who lived on that side of Toronto as well, the same drive the horse people had. I can certainly attest to it. It's pretty nice to drive the back roads to work every single day. But as well, I think there was a lot of question marks about how Mohawk would hold up as a winter racing facility, and those upgrades were made. And we've gone through a couple of winters now and went through those with absolutely no problems. So I think it's been just an unbelievable move to this point, and I'm seeing the comments float in as we speak and seeing a lot of positive reaction to it.
Yeah. Listen, it was a difficult time. I'll say this: I was criticized for people believing that I was turning my back on standardbred racing, and in fact, I can tell you and look you in the eye and say it was the opposite. This was a chance to take Mohawk to a whole new level, and we right off the bat committed to doing those upgrades, winterizing. We had a lot of meteorologists saying that, the weather's worse in Milton than it is in Toronto. I didn't really buy that argument. Maybe it is, but we've certainly been able to get through it. And from my perspective, I'm totally biased, but I think it's been wonderful. I sneak in regularly and sit in that trackside bar. People know I do that, but I have the nature of this industry. I sit there, and it's so great to be close to the action at Mohawk, and the Woodbine just didn't have that feel where the harness track was situate. And when you're right close to the drivers, and Jody's doing his little campaign up and down after he wins a race, and you're right part of it, and you hear them yelling at the horses down the stretch, there's nothing better. And I love going there, and I think that's another aspect. It's better for the horse people, but it's definitely better for our fans. It's a much better place to watch harness racing. You sit outside on a summer night at Mohawk and be right in the middle of it. It has that atmosphere that we love at Western Fair, that we love at Hanover. Everywhere you go, it's got that nice atmosphere to it, and we've been able to duplicate that at Mohawk, and we've kept it that way on purpose. And there's nothing better. And that was another, at least, big factor, and I think the fans have appreciated it too.
Well, Jim, as long as you're not walking out of that trackside bar needing assistance like Tom Brady, who we saw the other day. But yeah, you're right. Really a wonderful venue. That's where we set up for the COSA live TV shows, and there really is not a bad seat in the house there at Mohawk Park, and that's really one of the things that people love about it. Let's talk Mohawk Million. We're talking the big summer race program, and that was an event that had a tremendous amount of hype last year, but tremendously disappointing that you weren't able to conduct it under the conditions that you would hope to. Despite that, the event went over very well, and maybe I'll let you both chime in on this as well. Mark, from your standpoint, I think the lead up, maybe we didn't have as much hype ahead of it as we would have normally, but once it got closer, in that last week or two, the buzz really picked up, and by the time the night rolled around, it was incredible.
Yeah, I mean, I just
Give
can
us some footage
just
of
talk a little bit about the fact that that week and a half, maybe right after the Wellwood, essentially was when the buzz really started to grow because I think everybody to this point, it was a new event. They just knew it was a new event. That's all it was to a lot of people. Maybe not to those that were slot owners, but to sort of the average fan. But then once they saw that William Wellwood Memorial Winner's Circle presentation, and we were presenting the ticket to the Mohawk Million, things got real. And then now the negotiating and a lot of the wheeling and dealing was going on. Who was going to bring their horses up for the event? Were there going to be fillies taking on the boys? We got to see a few fillies in the event. I think that a race like that, and just talking to a lot of the industry media, they loved it. They loved being able to call up a slot owner or a trainer and ask them, hey, what are you thinking of doing? What's going to happen? And it generated a lot of buzz that we really needed. And I think sometimes, things can get a little stale. So it's great to have new events. And I just thought it was one of those that, considering the circumstances, I thought it went off really, really well and was really well received. I mean, even this week, I was reading, well, I wasn't reading it because it was in Swedish, but I had sent to me a Swedish trotting magazine where they were talking about the Mohawk Million. So, it certainly was recognized across the trotting world.
And that's what you hoped for, right, Jim? You I'm sure love hearing that they're talking about the Mohawk Million in Sweden in February.
Yeah, and all over the world, I had a couple of serious inquiries and correspondence with people from Australia, how we did it, what our rules were. They'd like to do the same thing there, and we've been helping them. A number of you probably read the story that I did with Dave Briggs last weekend, and I said to Dave, I said, listen, there's probably no one out there, including all the listeners currently, guys, that don't think it's a great idea. I mean, it's a wonderful concept. It's fun. It's great for the industry. Venerate went on to do well. People are going to pour their money back into the industry and help the yearling sales. The money's not leaving the industry. It's just a great boost, and I think everyone loved it. And we didn't do as much as we could because of COVID. We were really hoping to make it a really special weekend for all of those that had purchased slots or had horses in the race. And I'm hoping there's a chance we can do it this year. It's certainly been somewhat COVID impacted. People love the concept. It's great for the industry. It's great for Ontario racing. I think it generates interest, and I'm hoping there's a way to make it go. Right now, I haven't checked in with Jessica Buckley and Bill in the last couple of days. We were struggling to fill it out by Monday. Let's hope we're close, because if we're close, we'll obviously try and make a go of it, because it's so good for the industry. It was our second largest wagering night of the year last year, behind the NA Cup. I think a tremendous success. I think it's Dave and I spent some time on the weekend talking about trotting versus pacing and in age and so forth. But I still think the trotting and again, you guys have some insights that I don't. But I think trotting is we already have a great race in the Metro Pace. And we have a great program for 2-year-old trotters coming through the series in the summer. And trotting has worldwide appeal. We're growing in Australia. We're signing deals with Sweden. We're hoping to cement a better deal with PMU in France. And so, and those are countries that love trotters. And so we're growing this industry. It harkens back to what I said earlier about Woodbine and technology and our simulcasting and how we're going about this. And we're growing our market share in those other countries where trotting is popular. And there's no question that an event like this does help the yearling sales and does help the breeders and generates interest in the sport. So I'm hoping we'll find a way to make it go. It's not all of you and all of the people listening that we have to convince. probably a dozen people out there that have the quality of stock or the resources to make it go, that I hope are listening and will come back and make this event really great for the harness racing industry generally and for racing in Ontario.
Yeah, and as Jim mentions, even right there, it goes, starts in early August with those series that we put on for 2-year-olds. I mean, that's 2 months straight. If you've got a young horse, you can get them on a big track and come in and race in those summer series, which then move into Grand Circuit Stakes and then into the big marquee events. So I think it's not just the one race. There's a whole program right there for helping grow a young horse, whether that be on the pace or the trot, and keeping them on a big track, which a lot of trainers do like to do.
All right, so we're winding. Go ahead, Jim.
No, we're hopeful. Jessica Buckley and Bill McClinchy are doing a great job and working very hard at it. And I know there's no stone left unturned. And let's hope we have some good news for this race in 2021. It certainly brings, as Mark mentioned, a whole lot of interest in that series. And of course, in the Wellwood has certainly gained in stature. And I really hope we can keep this going. But let's see where it comes out in the next week or two as to how close we are.
A unique format that makes it really intriguing as a spectacle, but also, that can be the logistical side of it in trying to organize the event ahead of time. So, fingers crossed, and the feedback we're getting from our viewers tonight is unanimous. Everybody certainly wants to see the Mohawk Million back as part of that spectacular summer schedule. We want to thank everybody for sending questions in tonight. We didn't get a chance to get to all of them, of course, but a couple of other ones that we'll touch on briefly. A few people were asking about the fate of Flamborough Downs. We've been talking about Western Fair, Rideau, Mohawk. Really, all we can say at this point is likely that if we get that announcement that we're hoping for, perhaps tomorrow or at the first of the week, that Flamborough would be in a similar boat and in a position to potentially start racing in the near future. So we hope that's the case, and we'll hear more about that, I'm sure, in the coming days. A couple of people asking just about racing in general when it returns. Jim, is it going to look the same? I mean, immediately in terms of purse levels and things like that? Will there be any noticeable change when it comes back?
No, I don't think there'll be any noticeable change. The thing that really bothers me and keeps me awake at night is the people working at the track and our fans. We have a big food and beverage business where we like to entertain people, and I think we do a great job of hosting people, and we've got a lot of loyal supporters and fans out there, and I can see that unless these numbers change significantly, that we're going to be in these zones, whether it's the red zone or the orange zone, for quite some time, and that's the way that racing is going to be conducted, certainly in the first few months. And it's not fun for any of us to not be able to go live racing and sit at that trackside bar and be in the middle of it and hear our world-class drivers getting their horses going down the stretch. I should say that we've been working hard to try and have a Racing Night Live program again this year. It hasn't been determined yet, but we are in discussions with TSN. Again, I think I thought of it because our drivers, I think, did a great job last year of selling the sport and participating on Racing Night Live, and we're working towards that end with TSN, and let's hope we can do that again. That helps somewhat. It's certainly not a replacement for people coming to the track, and certainly the very large number of people that I feel for who are Woodbine people and other people that are not working as a result of this pandemic. So racing's going to be different like it was last year for a while, and let's hope it doesn't, for everyone's sake, last too long. But in terms of the quality of our program, the purses, we're in good shape. Operationally, we're ready to go, and let's everyone stay safe, and so we can keep it going.
And, as tough a year as it has been, trying to remain optimistic, there's only two ways to look at something. You can be the pessimist or the optimist, and I think there's really only one way to look at it ultimately, and you have to try and see the opportunities that do potentially lie ahead. And a lot of good things potentially when we do finally get back to what we consider normal, or whatever the new normal is going to be. And just kind of a final note, Jim, before we wrap up, I want to ask you about that. When we can look ahead to a day when we can welcome large crowds back to the racetrack, do you think there's going to be maybe a renewed appetite for racing as an outdoor sporting entertainment option?
Well, I certainly hope so. I'm not so sure how to answer that, Greg, but I do think that this has been a period where we've been able to, through shows such as Racing Night Live, and as I said, hats off to the drivers and the jockeys, and certainly some of the trainers and the personalities. I think the content in this sport, people have had an opportunity to learn a lot about this sport during this period. We've got a great communications department at Woodbine that Mark's part of, that is improving and looking for more and more content, the way we're going about business. And I think it's going to attract more people to come live, and the support we get from shows like this and COSA, in the marketing arm of COSA, and the help that they're giving, and just generally, I think there's an opportunity for us to attract interest in a lot of what we've learned during this period is quite the opposite of what you'd think. I think we've taken this period to sell our sport and to educate people, and I think they're going to be anxious to come out and enjoy it. And we've got world-class racing and a major league sport, and that's what people in the Greater Toronto area want. And I'm optimistic. I'm not even glass half full, Greg. I'm 7/8 full.
Good to hear. This might be a good time to ask Jim about that raise, Mark.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll get to that. So.
Jim just turned white. No, that's I think it's a great point. I mean, we speak from a personal standpoint as well, right? I think we're all going through it like everybody else. We feel cooped up in our homes almost 24 hours a day, and we'll be clamoring for that entertainment option and getting outdoors and enjoying sports and the things that we love. So I agree. I think there's really a lot to look forward to. And, we hope the horse racing community, Ontario, sees that the same way. And based on what we saw this past year, they get it. And I think everybody knows what we have to do when racing resumes to make sure that it continues. So thank you again, Jim. Anything else you'd like to add here, before we wrap up?
I've said a lot. I want to thank you guys and thank COSA for your support. And the reason we're here, and you just touched upon it, there are great people in this industry, in particular in this Ontario horse racing community, and that's why we do what we do. It's about the people. Of course, we all love the equine athletes, but this is an industry that I feel has made real strides in coming together and trying to find ways to work together, and we've crossed that threshold, and I'm happy that we've been part of it, and I'm mostly happy that we've been part of it because of the great people that work hard and love this industry, and I'm excited that we can carry this forward. So thanks, guys, for letting me speak and maybe talk too much, but there's a lot of messages that I think are important to get out there for people, that we are optimistic and we are working hard and doing our best for everyone.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jim.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Jim.
guys.
Yeah, you make our job easy, that is for sure, and we really appreciate your willingness to always come on and answer questions and then try and update everybody with as much information as you can. And I think it's really appreciated across the industry here in the province. So thanks again, and good luck. Hopefully we get some good news next week, and all the best for another wonderful season at Mohawk Park this summer.
Same to you guys.
That
Stay
is
safe.
Jim Lawson, our special guest tonight. Thank you, Mark, and we thank you for tuning in tonight. And we will see you soon on another edition of COSA-TV.
COSA, the Central Ontario Standardbred Association, proudly serving Ontario horse people with integrity and accountability. Collaborative, supportive, helping to ensure a vibrant harness racing industry. Lifetime membership is free and there are many benefits. Become a new member today. COSA, representing the interests of horse people racing at Ontario racetracks. To find out more, visit COSAonline.com.
Count on me in the middle of a storm. Well, that's okay, I'll be alright, just watch me soar.